Welcome, Kings fans. I'm Jesse Cohen. This is All the Kings Men Live. First things first, gosh, I hope you guys can hear me. Second of all the Kings Men Live is presented by MANSCAPED. MANSCAPED is an official partner of the LA Kings. Thanks to this revolutionary company, manscaping accidents are a thing of the past. Just get yourself the Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0. Inside, you'll find products like their Lawnmower 3.0, which has advanced skin-safe technology, so this trimmer won't cut you. Everything you need to keep trimmed and smelling nice is in the Perfect Package 3.0. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code KINGSMEN at manscaped.com. That's manscaped.com, and use the word KINGSMEN. Now, for those of you who subscribe to the podcast, this probably won't feel that foreign, but for any of you who have never heard of me before and don't know what the heck All the Kings Men is, well, hi, I'm Jesse. I host the official podcast of the LA Kings, All the Kings Men. I've been a Kings fan since somewhere in the mid-'80s, and my family has had seasons tickets up until the summer of 2012. You might recognize me from the intermission reports I do occasionally on Fox Sports West. My producer tonight, Bailey. How are you doing, Bailey? There, but we're best buds now, and he's going to help us through this whole process. Now, one of the things we say on All the Kings Men all the time is that happiness is measured by expectations. This is new for us. I've never had a lion as a producer, and this is a work in progress. So just keep that in mind while we go ahead and bring you this show. So before we get into our first interview, I do want to talk about how All the Kings Men started. It was about 13 years ago, and I found myself wanting to listen to somebody talk about the LA Kings. And the local radio wouldn't do it, the local TV wouldn't do it, and the local newspapers wouldn't do it. So I thought, well, I'd like to start something that I would want to hear as a Kings fan. So that's the mission statement of All the Kings Men, and we're going to try and live up to that mission statement in All the Kings Men Live and bring you stuff that we think you as Kings fans will enjoy and want to hear. So having said that, and without further ado, here's our conversation with Gabe Vilardi and Matt Villalta.
And score his first goal.
In all seriousness, though, congratulations, Gabe. I know it made a lot of Kings fans very happy. Let's get into your guys' background. Every website I can find says that you're both born in Kingston, but Matt, my understanding is that you're not actually born in Kingston. Is that correct?
I was born in Kingston, but I live about 30 minutes outside the city in the country, and grew up on a farm, so it's about a 30-minute tour into town.
How long have you guys actually known each other?
Since we were like 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, long time.
Real long time.
I was looking up your career stats, and it looks like you sort of missed each other on the front neck, midget teams and bantam and everything. But did you ever play together on a team when you were younger?
Yeah, we played together all the way growing up until minor midget. Then I left town. I went to Ottawa, actually.
Yeah.
And we played hockey from minor Adam up until midget, and we played soccer too. That's when we first met, actually, from soccer.
Who's better at soccer?
I'd say this guy. I was a goalie.
A goalie in both sports.
Yeah.
All right, which sport's a tougher handle for being a goalie?
I don't know. Soccer is pretty hard because they got the huge net, and at the time I was just a little guy, and the net's big. You pretty much shoot the ball wherever you want, it's going in. So I think for sure soccer. I think soccer's a pretty tough sport for a goalie.
Gabe, have you scored on Matt in soccer and on hockey?
Oh, for sure. Plenty.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Now, you both have brothers that play hockey, but Kings fans may not know this. Matt, you're a twin.
I am a twin, yes.
Yeah, right. Gabe, if Wyatt showed up, Matt's brother, Would you be able to tell that it wasn't Matt if they had the same haircut?
Oh, for sure. I could. I don't know, actually. Maybe. I think I would 100%. Basically, once I hear them start talking, their personalities are similar, but you can spot the little differences, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's missing a tooth on his one of his teeth, so that's kind of a giveaway.
That's a giveaway.
So, and he's a little taller than me, but
really,
so he's like 6'5" maybe. I'm a little shorter, but I would definitely say I'm the better looking one.
It's tough when they're both together, though. They get their own little. They have their own language. I call it the hillbilly language. They start talking and they use words that I don't understand, and they just talk, and I just laugh. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Is it like twin language, or is it like Canadian country slang?
I don't know what it is. It's made up words. They figured out somehow.
Yeah, I'd say it's like some country slang in there.
Yeah.
We also like to make up some of our own words. So Gabe has been learning a bunch of it, so he's kind of getting caught up on our language.
You fluent in Villalta, Gabe?
Yeah, now I'm starting to understand a bit more, but I still have trouble sometimes.
Are you going to make a Rosetta Stone series so the rest of us can catch up? So growing up, Matt, I'm curious, when did you know that Gabe had a shot at an NHL career?
I think from a pretty young age. Obviously, we started playing together in minor Adam here in Kingston, and I always knew, even when I was younger and novice, he played Ice Cats, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And I always heard about this Gabe Vilardi kid, like he's really good, and so then actually I got to play with him, and you could tell right away that he had something special, and he had a really good pair of mitts on him, really good hands, and he had a really good shot too. But yeah, no, he just I thought from a really young age he was going to go far in hockey, and I guess he is now. So it's pretty cool to see him and us kind of grow up together and see how far he's gone in the sport, and it's pretty cool for sure.
Gabe, same question for you. When did you know that Matt was going to wind up having a shot at being drafted?
Yeah, like for me, it was the same thing. Like growing up, you have two goalies and they rotate games, kind of thing. Like that's what you do in minor hockey, right? And like every game, I knew like when he was playing, like I was excited. It was like, yes, like Maddie's playing tonight. Like we're playing. For us, like Quinny was the best team growing up. Quinny, Peterborough, these are like cities close to Kingston, and it's like, oh, Maddie's playing against these. That's huge. Like that's important. We'll have a better chance of winning tonight. So for me, like. And even just in practice, it was always me. Like when you're doing drills, if you're choosing the end, I would always shoot on Matty because he was the better goalie always growing up. So it's like I want to shoot on the better goalie. So yeah, I kind of knew all the way. And then obviously when he played for Sioux and he played a major midget year, and then he came to the Sioux. I just remember him. He was battling against some other guy for the backup position that first year in the Sioux. And I remember when he made it, he FaceTimed me, and I was in Windsor, and I was just so happy. And then obviously seeing him get drafted to LA, I was just so fired up just that we can kind of like knowing his personality too, and he knows mine. Like we both really like to work hard, and that was our goal from the start. Just we want to move up the ranks, and we want to be with the Kings for a long time and live together. And we thought that would be pretty cool. And obviously this first year was just so much fun. I mean, we were always together in Manhattan Beach or Hermosa Beach, so pretty cool.
Nice gig if you can get it. Matt, I read an interview where you said that you were surprised you went as high as you did in the draft. You said you thought maybe you'd wind up going in the 7th round or something. Were you surprised that you went in the 3rd, and were you surprised that you wound up being drafted by the same team that had just picked up Gabe?
Yeah, I think so. I think I remember the night of the draft, there was a first round going on, and I was watching the TV at my house and home in Godfrey, and there's a couple picks going by, and then LA pops up, and then I see Gabe get picked, and I said, okay, that's awesome. That's really cool. And then obviously that's the first night of the draft, the first round, and then the next day is the rest of the rounds. And, honestly, I didn't go to the draft, so I was just watching home on TV, and I know he went, and so I think I was just outside. I think I was fishing out on the lake, actually, and I came in to get a snack, and then I went up to my grandparents' house because I had to go do something up there on the farm, and I just popped inside, and I took a quick look at the TV, and next pick was LA, and all of a sudden my name just popped up on TV, and I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. And because obviously the night before I saw him go to LA, and then I was like, "There's no way this just happened that me and Gabe just got picked by LA." And so that was pretty surreal moment for me, and just knowing to be a start of something pretty cool. I have a cool journey with one of my best friends growing up, and so that was awesome. And yeah, obviously before I didn't think that I was going to obviously go third round just because coming into the OHL as undrafted goalie. There was a little bit of uncertainty there of even making the team. I think I signed with like a junior B team before I went to camp, and luckily enough, I made a team, and Kyle Raftis signed me that year in the Sioux, and so I just tried, just whenever I got the opportunity to get in that, just have fun and just play my game. And I honestly just didn't want to, expect anything, at the draft. Just, if I didn't get picked, then it is what it is, right? I just got to keep working. But yeah, obviously, it's pretty special going that high, and I think it was same pick as Quickie too, which is I think he was 72nd in the third round. So I searched that up, and that was pretty kind of a neat little fact there. And so yeah, it was super special.
I noticed you both have mini sticks, and Gabe's got a tennis ball there. Is there a story behind that?
No, we were just playing mini sticks a couple minutes ago. We were waiting. We were like, we're gonna wait until 2:00. He got here a little early. He said, "Hey, Matt goes, you bitch, we should play some mini sticks."
Yeah.
Are you in Kingston right now then?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And who's better at mini sticks?
I don't know. We never played mini sticks. Yeah. We just found these. Okay.
Back in Southern California, I understand you guys live with Toby Bjornfoot. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah. How's he as a roommate?
It was good. I lived with Sean Dersey and Johan Sodergran and Toby. So we had two Swedes, and then me and Ders were obviously the Canadians. But yeah, no, Toby was awesome. He's a real good kid, and he's pretty funny. And so yeah, it was a great time living with him and all the guys, and we had a lot of fun and played some video games, and we made some nice dinners together. And the Swedes, they love cooking, so they taught me some skills in the kitchen, and it was awesome.
Gabe, what's the leap been like going from the AHL to the NHL? We keep hearing about how, the plays are crisper, there's fewer mistakes, it's faster, the guys are bigger. 7 points in 10 games. It doesn't seem like you're struggling to make the leap.
I think the biggest difference for me was getting caught out there. Like, you can't get caught on long shifts. Kind of like it's just too fast almost. Like, the speed of like the transition game is just too quick. And if you get caught out there, especially for me, I felt it would just kind of ruin your next two shifts almost. Like, you'd be gassed for the next one still. But I think all in all, I think it depends on who you are. I thought it was very similar. I think guys are in the positions you expect them to be. So I thought in that aspect it was a bit easier. It was less chaotic almost, and maybe in the AHL, I mean. But yeah, it was a pretty good shift, I think, for me personally. Matt,
is it true that you're taking flying lessons?
It was. Before I went to Sault Ste. Marie, I used to, my backup plan was to be a commercial pilot for an airline. So I used to go to flight school and fly planes. So that was one of my goals as a kid. But now that I kind of got a little bit more busy with hockey, that's kind of settled down a little bit. But I do still have a big interest of getting my pilot's license. And my brother is going to Sault College next year, which is a really good aviation school in Ontario. And so he's going to become a pilot. So he's going to work towards that. And hopefully one day he might get a plane. So I think it'd be pretty cool if I could get my own private pilot's license. I could be flying with him.
Gabe, would you let Matt fly you somewhere?
No, not a chance. But I don't know, maybe. I would, honestly. He talked me into it, and I trust him. But as of right now, no.
All right, which one of you guys is funnier?
I don't know. I think Gabe's pretty funny, but I think we both have I think we're pretty similar.
I think it's a tough question.
Yeah,
like we've been together so much. I feel like it's pretty crazy. Like, we kind of like, I don't know, like you probably notice when you live with people that you get their traits almost. Like, sometimes I catch myself like talking like him, like when he's not around. Cause I think we're both pretty funny.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you find that knowing each other already when you joined the organization, when you're going to, development camp or rookie camp or everything, does that help you guys meet the other members of your draft class and some of the other younger players in the franchise that you guys already have each other to lean on?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think it's just the fact that me and him feel really comfortable together. So it's just kind of, going to a new place, you kind of might be a little intimidated by some things. And so it was nice to have him, be there with me. And we could just kind of, if we had needed something, we'd always just help each other out. And then just made him a little more comfortable because we could go up to like, say, Jared, Anderson Dolan, or like anyone who was drafted with us, and we just kind of start a conversation and with anyone. So that made it a lot easier for sure.
Is there somebody?
It's one all, one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
There we go. Hope you guys can hear me now. Thanks to Matt and Gabe for joining me. I think we sort of cut out early on that. Sorry about that. But huge thanks to them, and we will effort to get you the rest of that video moving forward. All right, sorry, I'm getting a million different messages from a million people here, but we have been doing Bark Madness for 6 years now, and this year I felt like Kings fans might need it more than ever. It just concluded last night, so we asked a friend of ours to help announce the winner.
It was a championship matchup that people will tell their grandchildren about. Meatball Luff and Lucy Anderson went nose-to-nose and left everything out on the field. There were a total of 20,901 votes in 3 days, and there were 5 lead changes in the final 24 hours. In the end, Meatball Luff prevailed to become the first ever 2-time Bark Madness champion. Congrats.
So there you have it. Meatball Luff makes history becoming the first ever back-to-back Bark Madness champion. Congratulations to Meatball Luff, Matt Luff, and the entire Meatball Mafia for bringing about that historic win. Earlier this week, our mascot Bailey and our producer invited 50 fans to watch Miracle, the movie about the 1980 U.S. gold medal winning hockey game. After the movie, Bailey and I had a conversation with Patrick O'Brien Demsey, who played Mike Eruzione, and LA Kings goalie coach Bill Ranford, who filled in as USA goaltender Jim Craig during all of the hockey scenes. And now we know some of you may have already seen the entire conversation, so we're bringing you an abridged version. If you're curious to watch the whole thing, it's available on Bailey's Twitch channel, the LA Kings YouTube channel, or other places. So stick around. When we come back, we'll do questions and answers. We'll give away some MANSCAPED prizes. Bailey, roll that tape.
We want to get into as many stories as you guys are willing to give us about the filming of the movie. But before we do that, Patrick, I have to ask, I was reading an interview that you gave about this film where you on becoming a professional yacht captain before the filming of this movie. How does one become a professional yacht captain?
First, you have to have an incredible sense of escapism. You just and I was ready to go. I was finishing college and I was doing an internship in graphic design. And but in the summers while I was in college, I had driven a water taxi at a yacht club. And I was just like driving a little 22-foot boat, shuttling people back and forth from their yachts. And I had met a couple that were the captain and first mate of an 85-foot privately owned sailboat. And they said, and I said, guys, I want to go. I want to see the world. I got to see everything, And they said, all right, when you're done with school, give us a call. We'll get you on. And I would have been scrubbing decks and toilets for, peanuts. But I would have seen the world. And, while I was finishing up my internship, I came across the audition for Miracle. And the week I finished school, which was December of 2002, I found out that I had booked the part. So I never made it on the boat.
What was the casting call for Miracle? Was it just hockey players? Was it, a look, a type?
Yeah, I mean, they were looking for specific guys. They had to look the part. And so my first audition, it was, I found out about it, and 24 hours later, I was in my first audition in Boston. And, you know, I went in to audition to read, and I had no idea what I was doing. And my lip was shaking and my hands were shaking and I was sweating. And, you know, I left there just completely rattled, thinking I've ruined all my prospects of getting this. Yeah.
Now,
But, you know, a month later, they called me back, and I think I auditioned 6 or 7 times in Boston. One time was on the ice. The rest I had to read, you know. And then they flew me to LA twice in December of 2002 to screen test here. Here,
Bill, you were
I live in LA now.
right.
Yeah.
Bill, you were in a completely different stage of your life. You weren't aspiring professional yacht captain. You were a 2-time Stanley Cup winner, a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. How do you go from being a goalie coach to playing Jim Craig in a movie? Or half of Jim Craig, I guess.
I wasn't even a goalie coach at that time. I just retired, and I was trying to get away from hockey. But the guys that I was, the Canuck alumni guys that were part of the movie, basically gave me a call and said, "Hey, they're shooting the movie Miracle in Vancouver. Would you be interested in doing it?" And I said, "Well, depends what the commitment is. Obviously, I just retired. The last thing I wanted to be doing was being away from the family again." And originally they talked about shooting the movie in Vancouver and then going up to Prince George, and that wasn't really something that I wanted to do. So I politely bowed out. And then it wasn't till they got to actually shooting the Jim Craig parts months later that I got the call again to get back involved in the movie.
So you were the Tim Holler who came in and joined the family late.
I joined very late. It was really interesting because you know, I got the opportunity to meet a lot of the guys when they were kind of not quite in their peak shape due to the great food that is available on the movie set. So it was actually pretty hilarious because I came on board so late, and so I'm seeing a lot of these guys for the first time, and then I'm hearing about the drastic weight changes in some of these guys that weren't very active in the movie, that they'd gained 10, 15, 20 pounds from start to finish. So I got a good chuckle out of that.
We've heard a ton about how the cast came together like a proper team. You know, different guys had different roles. Patrick, who was the captain of the team of actors?
I was, which is kind of weird. It just sort of happened that way. I guess, you know, when we had our big casting call in LA, they brought a bunch of hockey players in, and they had a bunch of actors that could play hockey, and we all came together for a weekend. And I think it was really, we all got here, and it was kind of chaos. There was people everywhere. So I just grabbed a roll of tape. I started writing names, sticking it on people, so everybody knew everybody else's name. And the director was like, I pretty much knew at that moment that like you just came in and kind of took charge of the situation that was pretty chaotic. And he was like, I kind of knew that that's what I needed.
Bill, did it feel like a hockey team?
Well, it certainly did, just because of the way it was set up. The ironic thing was, because the guys that I knew, guys that had played junior hockey, a little bit of pro, and then obviously Canuck alumni that were involved in shooting the movie, even though I was playing for Team USA, I was actually in the room with the Russians. So that was the irony behind the whole thing, that I was in their room. You know, so I didn't have, because I wasn't an actor, I didn't have any lines or anything like that. So I was kind of kept apart from a lot of the guys for Team USA until we got on the ice, or when we met at the food truck. That was kind of a common ground. You know, we started every morning. We're up early. You know, and breakfast was pretty darn good at the food truck every morning. So craft services treated everybody quite well. So that's how I got to know the guys, just by meeting up in the morning with them, and then as the weeks went on, obviously I gained more of a relationship with the guys, and we went out the odd night together and had some fun. So we grew as a team. So it was a pretty awesome experience.
We've got a question from the chat room. We'll start with Bill, and then we'll get to Patrick. Bill, the Stewart family wants to know, what was the hardest part of filming for you, and what was your favorite part?
Oh boy, the hardest part was, I was probably 34, 35 at that time, so not old by any means, but I was wearing the old equipment, and that was the old horsehair, and the pads were heavy. So if we shot something early, the pads were wet, and then we could sit around for 5 or 6 hours, and then all of a sudden director comes in and like, let's go shoot. And to just get up and go after sitting for 4 or 5 hours sometimes is a little tough. So that for me, that was the toughest part. The most fun, oh boy, that's a tough one. I think when we got to the point where we realized that some of the scenes, and I think this is the input that I had in the movie, was they talked about choreographing some of the scenes, and my input on it was give us an idea what you want to have happen in the scene, and then let us make it happen. Because early on, there's a scene that they wanted me to make a glove save, and they were trying to just mock it up. And I said, how about this? If I know the guy is going to shoot to my glove, I can sell it. If he doesn't shoot to the glove and he shoots blocker side, it's going to look stupid. But that's how I think the movie really changed and became very realistic when it got to some of the goalie Jim Craig stuff. Was I said, let me do what I can do by selling it, as long as we know what's going to happen. And I think that really changed the way the movie became very, very realistic and very game-like.
Patrick, how about you? Let's open it up to not just on the ice stuff. What was the most difficult? Your first gig, you said.
Yeah, it's my first gig. The most difficult, really, I think, was the most stress that I felt was probably trying to score the goal. There was a lot of really, really great hockey players around, and I can't say that I was one of them, which was perfect for the character.
Right.
But with hands like these and a wooden stick, it just, those things weren't all on my side. So I did have quite a bit of stress doing that. Really, the most fun, I mean, I don't know, as a hockey player, the most fun you have really is in the locker room hanging out with the guys. And I got to spend 5 months in the locker room with a bunch of guys that I liked a lot. It was just every day was it was pure gold for us.
Another question from the fans, Patrick. A fan wants to know how many of the actors had previous hockey playing experience. I know you played in college, right?
Yeah, I played. I rode the bench in Division III, so
that's playing.
I was a good locker room guy. All the guys had hockey playing experience, with except Eddie Cahill wasn't a hockey player.
Yeah,
I mean, he had picked it up a little bit and done some skating, but a couple of the guys that skated out were goalies growing up. The guy who played Ralph Cox, Kenny Mitchell, he was a goalie. Nathan West, who played McClanahan, he was a goalie as well growing up. But all of us had played at some level or another.
Another question from the fans. Traveling Queen Irene wants to know, Bill, did you have any interaction with Jim Craig, or were you just going by video?
No, everything was by video. The ironic thing was both Jim and I were drafted by the Boston Bruins. So Jim was just a little bit before my time, which was kind of the irony of the whole movie, was the fact that I was probably 3 or 4 years later with the Bruins, and then went on to play for them for off and on for 3 or 4 different years. But I never did see Jim throughout the movie. Like I said, I came on for the last 6 to 8 weeks, and it was crunch time. We were shooting around the clock and just trying to get as many of the Jim Craig scenes in as we could.
Did the Atlanta Flames try to sign you, or had they moved to Calgary by the time you started?
They were probably in Calgary by that point.
All right. I've got a
actually,
quick question.
For sure they were, because I was sent to the minors my first year, and we were sharing it with Calgary.
Oh,
Boston and Calgary shared the minor league team, so for sure it was Calgary by that point.
You said that you did a mixture of scripted scenes, right, where you're trying to make specific things happen, but also played a pickup game. Was it difficult for you? Were there ever moments where you had to be worse than you were, where you had to ignore your reflexes and let a puck past you?
That's not in my DNA.
Not even for a movie.
Not even for a movie.
All right.
You know, it's something there. I think there was probably a few scenes that we did where I got scored on, but when it came to you know, live play, we'd work on scripted scenes during the day, and then when we were getting ready to finish, you know, they wanted to try and get live footage every single day to try and make the movie more realistic. And really a little bit of how ironic it is a lot of the scenes, not a lot of the scenes, but some of the scenes that they used of Jim Craig stacking the pads actually came from when we just did live scrimmages, and they're just trying to grab whatever they could to try and, you know, liven up the game to make it a little bit more realistic. And I think that's why it'll go down as one of the all-time best actual pure hockey movies out there, because so much of the footage was very realistic.
Patrick, you and I are about the same age. I think I'm maybe 6 months older than you. I grew up in Southern California. You grew up in the Northeast, so I mean, you probably had a lot more exposure to, you know, traditional hockey than I did. But I can remember hearing about the Miracle on Ice growing up. The earliest memory I think I specifically have of knowing about it was like high school. One of like my history teacher knew that I was the hockey fan in the class, and so would come over and body check me when he was talking about it. But what does it feel like to grow up hearing about something like this and then be sort of forever linked to this real life event through a movie?
Surreal, still pretty surreal. You know, I grew up hearing about it. I was 14 months old. My dad said he watched the game holding me, you know, in a diaper. You know, he remembers watching the game. So, you know, when I first got involved with it, I had no idea what it was going to be. You know, I didn't know it was going to be something that people would still love. It could have been garbage. You know, it's like I had no idea what I was getting into. And I think if I had put the pressure on myself of saying, oh, we're making an iconic movie, we're making a classic hit here, that I just wouldn't have been able to do it. I really think we were just having fun. We were working hard, we were having fun, and we were just trying to live in the moment of recreating this. And I don't know, it was such a great experience because of that.
Bill, we've talked to Jim Fox about this and asked him what his reaction was as a Canadian when the team won the gold. And he seemed to not really have a strong reaction to it. Do you remember the you know, when it happened? Were you following it?
I was actually a kid living over in Germany, so I followed it quite closely because we had back then very little TV, and it was actually being broadcast on the German sports channel. So I watched not only the Russian game, but then everybody forgets about they still had to beat Finland, and I watched that game too. And so I would have been you know, a young kid at the time, because I was over there from 79 to 74 to 79 when I was over there. So it's at the tail end there, and it was for me, it was just amazing to watch. I didn't really understand the difference between Canada and US at that time. I didn't really understand the significance of it, especially when you're a military brat and you're seeing different countries all the time on the base. It wasn't that significant for me. I was just amazed by the whole story.
You guys filmed in Vancouver, which, for those who are familiar with Hollywood, everyone knows that serves as a lot of different locations these days. Were there other movies, other TV shows going on around you that you guys, you know, could interact with the cast and see what was happening?
Yeah, you know, the guys from Smallville were around quite a bit. Michael Rosenbaum, he's a hockey guy too.
Yeah,
and I play with him once in a while out here, and that's the first time I met him. We were shooting up there.
Patrick, let's talk about the on the ice stuff. I saw you in the chat room while we were watching the movie talk about how long it took to film some of those scenes, how long you guys spent on the ice. Did anybody get hurt doing all that?
Well, you're looking at one of them right here. Yeah. Go tell them about that one.
We were shooting the last 10 seconds of the game, and it was basically a nothing play. And so we, the old movie jargon, we were doing swipes. We just, in the face, exactly. We are basically just passing the puck around and having some fun while the shot was focused on the individual that they were filming. And some rockhead defenseman takes a slap shot from the point, and it hits. I forget who they are shooting, but whoever it was that they're shooting, his stick was just laying there, deflects off his stick up into my eye socket, and the mask I was wearing wasn't very good, split me wide open, and I actually had to go get stitched up, and we were actually having a gathering that night, the group of us, and I was about 4 hours late, but I caught up very quickly with all the medication I was on.
Sure, you're a hockey player. You're not going to stop you.
It's one of my favorite stories too to tell about it. It's just amazing.
It was crazy because it was a nothing play. It was nothing to do with Jim Craig, nothing really to do with the movie itself. It was a nothing play and ripped me open right across the eyebrow. But the great part about it was I went to I think it was Burnaby for into the emergency, and the doctor on call was intern plastic surgeon. So he did the tightest, cleanest stitches, and you can't even tell I was cut there. It was unbelievable the job he did. It was painful having them removed because they were so tight, but he did a great job. I still got this beautiful face, from it.
and a glorious beard, I might add.
Yeah, my first beard since 1990. I'm working my COVID-19 beard. Never had one. I've never been able to grow one.
It looks good on you. I like it.
I'm trying.
Patrick, you mentioned in the chat that you had a body double. How many scenes did he actually wind up appearing in?
He took most of the hits. There was only a couple of them that I really were scripted in there. But same thing. If I got hit here, then it would have been a problem. And actually, the kid that played Mark Johnson, his name's Eric Peter Kaiser. He did get cut right here, and he had probably 4 or 5 stitches. And there's one scene in the movie that whenever I see it, I can see how they pulled his hair down, and they have the skin over it, and they put makeup over it. And I remember it, and I can see it. But if you didn't know it was there, you can't see it. But yeah, so anytime there's a real big hit where Ruzioni kind of swings out the top of the face-off circle in the defensive zone and gets nailed, and that wasn't me.
Lucky you. Yeah. Bill, I meant to ask when you mentioned the cut. Obviously, super convenient that Jim Craig wore that full goalie mask, right, that covers your face. When you played, you wore the modern style that has the cutout. Had you ever played with a goalie mask like that before?
Yeah, my first 2 masks that I wore up until I think I went to the helmet and screen in Bantam. So probably my first three hockey seasons were and it was basically a Canadian Tire plastic mask that I wore with little pieces of padding to keep it away from your face, but nothing special. But Patrick, you had a body double. I didn't have that luxury. I got knocked out during one of the stunt scenes in the movie. Todd Harkins was one of the Russian players, and it was a scene they actually put in the movie. and he knocked me out, caught me with the knee to the temple in a scene that we were shooting, and I got knocked out. And I was driving, first time that I can honestly remember driving and having the post-concussion symptoms of bright lights and not sure where I was on the road. It was crazy.
Patrick, when people recognize you, is there a line? Do they do the Mike Ruzioni? I played for the United States of America. Do they do Legs Feed the Wolf? Do they do Again? What are people constantly throwing at you?
I got my friends they always say to me when I play hockey with them, what is it? Focus on your own game. Plenty there to keep you busy. That's right. but yeah, I get. It's funny. What I get a lot of is nobody's quitting here, Herb. I don't know why.
The accents are amazing in the movie. Yeah. I mean, was that yours? Have you gotten rid of it over 20 years?
Yeah, I've gotten rid of it, and I get it right back when I want it, and when I get off a plane at Logan Airport.
Sure,
to see my family. Yeah. I'm sorry, airport. Yeah, but they were. Eddie Cahill's from New York, and he did a Boston accent. Great job. Ken Mitchell, who played Ralph Cox, he's from Toronto and did a Boston accent. Another great job.
Let's talk about Ralph Cox real quick, because everybody obviously in the chat was reacting to the scene where he gets cut. It's, it's an emotional moment, but movies, spoiler for people who don't know, are not filmed in sequential order.
Yeah.
Do you remember where in the filming of the movie that scene came? Like, did he have to stick around after doing the scene where he gets cut?
That was actually right before he left, and I think they did that specifically because of what the director Gavin was building. He wanted to have it be that heavy that we knew that he was leaving within a few days. It was right before we started filming the Russian scenes, and he was brilliant in that scene. And I wrote in the chat, I remember Kurt Russell coming out in between takes and saying, "That kid is killing me in there. I'm doing everything I can not to cry," because he was just incredible in that scene.
It is a great scene. Bill,
Yeah.
did you have to, like, how much acting were you doing? Like, obviously you're out there playing goal, you're stopping shots, you're giving feedback on the hockey, but were you, interacting with the director a ton? Were you having to interact with the, when they're out there? Sorry, I'm blanking on a. But when they're on the ice, were you acting, or were you just being a goalie?
I was just doing my thing. The fortunate thing that Jim Craig and I both played similar styles. The stand-up style, I could still do the skate save and the toe up save. So stack the pads. That was all my games. So the transition was easy. The toughest part was dealing with the equipment, dealing with the old pads, trying to catch with that old GM12 goalie glove was a real treat, because there were scenes where I had to catch the puck, and it wasn't take after take, but you really had to focus on squeezing the glove and making sure the puck stayed in it. So it was one of those things, but there was no acting by me. That was left up to Eddie. Eddie did all the acting sort of stuff. When I got on the ice, I was just playing goal and trying to be as realistic as I could, and in trying to, like, I went home and looked at old film of from the Olympics to try and kind of shore up my stance to what Jim did, and so I tried to make little changes that way. But as far as the playing the game itself, that's all I did. I didn't act.
Thanks again to Bill and to Patrick, and of course to Bailey for joining us for that conversation after Miracle. How you doing, Bailey? We cut that one a little bit short. The chat wound up going about 45 minutes, and we know a lot of you have already seen it. So if you do want to find the rest of it, you can go to Bailey's Twitch channel, the Kings YouTube channel. Check out the rest of it. Some great stories from Bill, some great topics from Patrick, some good questions from the fans. Now, we're going to be giving away some prizes from MANSCAPED. So if you want to go ahead and type MANSCAPED into the chat on Bailey's Twitch channel, we know there are a lot of you watching on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So if you're in the Twitch channel for Bailey's channel, type MANSCAPED. We'll be giving away 5 of those prizes. Now, we're going to do some question and answer with the fans. But before we do that, I mentioned it earlier. The name of the show is All the King's Men, and it's not just a convenient reference to a familiar nursery rhyme, novel, film, or British all-male a cappella group. We chose the name because I really did want it to serve the fans in a way the conventional media wasn't doing when we started it, and I would still like it to serve that purpose. So, that's right, All the King's Men, Bailey. So with that in mind, if you've got a birthday coming up like Tim Zimmerman tomorrow, or if you've got a wedding anniversary, or if you're an artist who likes to paint pictures of the Kings, or a songwriter who likes to write songs about the Kings, if you've got a fan cave you want to show us, a jersey collection, an autograph collection, a handmade Bailey doll, whatever it is, we're going to find a way for you to reach out to us. We want to make you a part of this show. This show is for you. It's not for us. It's for Kings fans to stay connected, to stay involved in the Kings, and to be all the Kings men. So keep your thinking hats on and your looking glasses on. We will come up with a way very soon to include you in this process. Now let's go ahead and take some questions from the fans. You can go ahead and tag me, Kingsmen Podcast, in the chat on Bailey's Twitch channel. Yes, or or all the King's women. Sorry, Queen Sandra. Hannah Davey asked a question earlier about when goalies get drafted in reference to Matt Villalta, thinking that he would go maybe in the 7th round, if not at all, being surprised that he wound up going in the 3rd. Now, there have been goalies taken first overall. There have been goalies taken, in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. As Villalta mentioned, Quick taken in the 3rd round. I think more and more these days you're going to find fewer goalies taken in the 1st round because there have been some cases like maybe a Carey Price who was taken, I think, 15th overall. I could have that number wrong. But obviously Carey Price had a very great, has had a wonderful career. He's considered one of the top goalies of all time, according to NHL recently. But there have also been guys like Rick DiPietro, who was taken, I'm not going to commit to saying 1st overall, but certainly within the top 5. And the New York Islanders invested a ton of money in him. And his career didn't work out the way everybody hoped. He got injured, and that was sort of the end of that. NHL New Jersey Devil wants to know who is my least favorite mascot. Least favorite mascot. I'm going to have to say Wild Wing, right? The Anaheim Ducks mascot. We all remember him descending from the rafters and attempting leaps through hoops of fire and things like that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go with Wild Wing. My favorite, of course, is Bailey, who just disappeared off my screen there. But I know Bailey's least favorite mascot is Gritty, so I'll go ahead and list Gritty as second least favorite after Wild Wing. Oh, no, Bailey's not committing to that. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Icing on the Crown wants to know honest thoughts on the famous Burger King jersey and would we bring it back for a game or two. I was never a huge fan of the Burger King jersey, frankly. For nostalgia purposes, I'd be fine with them bringing it back for a game or two, but I just never really liked it. I never belonged to that group of people who thought it was so outrageously ugly that it became cool. But with 20 years now gone since it debuted, I think, or maybe 25 years even, geez. I wouldn't die on that hill. I'll be perfectly fine with it. Dushy wants to know if Gabe discussed his health. He did not, and frankly, with 7 points in 10 games, second most in a first 10-game span in Kings since Andrei Kopitar, I don't think we really need to worry about it. He looks good. The coaches rave about him. His teammates rave about him, and he looks great. Nav W3 wants to know who is someone I'd like to have on the podcast that I haven't. That is a really good question. We've talked to Luke. We've talked to Coach McClellan. We've talked to Rob Blake. I guess I'd have to say Wayne Gretzky. We still have never spoken to him. We've talked to Yari Curry. We've talked to Bob Miller, obviously a lot of people. But yeah, I would have to say Gretzky, although frankly, I don't know what I would say to him. I feel like people far better than me at this have already spoken to him hundreds of times and gotten everything that there would be to get out of him. But I mean, just selfishly, I'd love to talk to Wayne Gretzky. Bailey, you want to talk? Well, you want to sign it at Wayne Gretzky? Wave at him. Sure. All right. Fan wants to know, what do I think of the likelihood of Seattle picking up Quick in the expansion draft? We've sort of talked about this recently, but we will get into it in more depth in a future episode of All the King's Men. 6 months ago, I would have said not likely at all. Quick will be reaching the end of his contract, sure, and his actual salary will be lower than the cap hit. And obviously, he's won the Stanley Cup twice. He's a Conn Smythe winner, so presence in the locker room, veteran leadership, all of that. There are a million reasons to get him. But like I said, 6 months ago, I would have said his age, his cost. I didn't think it would be worth it for Seattle, but he's turned his game on tremendously recently. And yes, I do think Peterson will be protected in the expansion draft. So I could see a scenario where Seattle would take Quick, although I still think that there will be better options for their future, if not for their immediate success in Seattle. Hannah Davey, yes, I have moved on from the Irish soda bread. I bought 2 loaves. I put it in the freezer. They are now gone. We're going to go ahead and do 1 or 2 more questions, and then I think we're probably going to wrap it up. Bailey wants to know who has been my favorite interview. I'm going to say former Kings PA announcer David Courtney, who is no longer with us, but we spoke to him, in the previous iteration of this podcast, back when it was the Hockeywood Insider. I want to say we talked to him in 2010, maybe, but he had a ton of information. He had been around for quite a while, had played a pretty interesting role in the Kings organization. He helped design that that 93, that Heritage jersey that we talk about. So I think that was one of my favorites. Icing on the crown, this is an interesting question. Wants to know, what does Alex Faust bring to the broadcast that I enjoy more than Bob Miller? Obviously, everybody loves Bob Miller. He did the job flawlessly for decades and was a huge part of every Kings fan growing up that was of a certain age. Alex Faust, I've seen people accuse Alex of putting on airs on the broadcast and say that he's, pretending to be something he's not, or that he puts on a voice or whatever. And I'm here to tell you that I've hung out with Alex, I've spoken to Alex, I know Alex, and that is not at all false. Alex is precisely who he comes across as, and I love him for it. And I think it's great. He's got an incredible voice. He's got incredible presence. And I think everybody who's watched him do multiple sports or multiple games on multiple channels can see that he's clearly, he just has that, I don't even know what the word for it is, gravitas, presence, whatever it is. But I think he's great, and I love the job he does. Bailey, thumbs up for Alex Faust there? All right. I think that is going to wrap it up for this first show. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you asking your questions. And again, cannot stress this enough. This is going to be all the Kings fans live. So we do want your input. We want your artwork. We want your songs, your stories, your birthdays, your memories of Kings games, your memory of Kings players, Kings broadcasters, whatever it is. We will come up very soon with a way for you to reach out to us to include you in this. We hope you enjoyed the interviews. We're going to have more of them. We'll keep them shorter in the future. I know that Miracle one ran a little bit long, and it ran even longer. But we're going to keep these fun, hopefully, and entertaining. Do subscribe to All the Kings Men, to the Fox and Faust podcast, to the Rainy Day podcast. All of those can be found at lakings.com/podcast. And we're going to continue to bring you episodes and interviews that we hope you enjoy. So the backup goalie song, someone just asked about it in the chat. The backup goalie song is done. It is, all the lyrics are done. All of the melody is written. We're going to record it very soon. And I'm really happy with it, and I really can't wait for you guys to see it. I'm very, very, very happy with it. And I think it's really good. I'm not going to say it slaps because it's not that kind of song, but I'm very, very excited. Anyway, Bailey, thank you so much for producing this. Thanks for lending us your channel for this project, I should say. So for Bailey and for everybody at the Kings, I am Jesse Cohen saying thank you very much, Kings fans. We're doing this for you. Don't forget to stay home, stay safe. Come back next week, and we'll talk to you soon. Yeah, I didn't ramble too much there? Yeah, I was. I don't know why. I'll get over that.